After keeping quiet for several weeks, Jeremiah Wright emerged at an NAACP event in Detroit and added more fuel to the fire.
Arabic is a language, it's not a religion. Barack Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, Barack Hussein Obama.
But he didn't stop there. The following day, Jeremiah Wright raised even more eyebrows when he spoke before the National Press Club.
You cannot do terrorism on other people and expect it never to come back on you. This is not an attack on Jeremiah Wright. It has nothing to do with Senator Obama. It is an attack on the black church.
Finally, after all the outrageous comments, the Obama campaign could handle no more.
Michelle and I told Reverend Otis Moss that we were withdrawing as members of Trinity.
But what took him so long? He distanced himself from Jeremiah Wright, but this was not the only religious leader that Obama would have to run away from. At the same time that Reverend Wright's explosive comments were playing around the country, Father Michael Pfleger emerged onto the scene. Father Pfleger, a Catholic priest, is also a community organizer and activist in Chicago. Father Pfleger, like Reverend Wright, is a close associate with the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan. Father Pfleger has even called Farrakhan, quote, a gift from God to a sick, sick world and one of the most prophetic voices of our times. So how can they honor and praise a man who once said white men were the skunk of the planet Earth?
And I'll be damned if I'm going to sit back while you tear down Farrakhan and Jeremiah Wright. How dare you!
But just how close are Father Pfleger and Barack Obama? Well, back in 1999, Pfleger supported Obama during his run for the state Senate. The records also show that Pfleger contributed thousands of dollars to his campaign. Obama also steered a $100,000 state grant into Pfleger's affiliated programs back in 2000. And if that's not enough proof, Father Pfleger was once a member of the, quote, Catholics for Obama committee. It seems Barack Obama thought it was acceptable to be associated with Wright and Pfleger when it was political convenience, but discarded them when they turned into a political liability. Unfortunately for Obama, the truth has been revealed and the American people know who his real friends now are. Senator Barack Obama, with his occasional American flag pin on his lapel, spoke in front of Jewish voters at a synagogue in Florida. He wanted to reassure them of his personal commitment to Israel, but his loyalty was quickly called into question.
You also characterized that you and your wife's personal relationship with Rashid Khalidi, an avowed anti-Israel scholar at Columbia.
You mentioned Rashid Khalidi, who's a professor at Columbia. I do know him because he taught at the University of Chicago. And he is Palestinian. And I do know him, and I have had conversations. He is not one of my advisors. He's not one of my foreign policy people. His kids went to the lab school, where my kids go as well. He is a respected scholar, although he vehemently disagrees with a lot of Israel policy.
As another radical relationship comes to light, Senator Obama is minimizing his association with Rashid Khalidi, an allegedly former member of a terror organization.
Rashid Khalidi today is a professor at Columbia, earlier was a professor at the University of Chicago, but before that he was an employee of the Palestinian Liberation. And he was an employee of the PLO back when it was a designated terrorist organization. In 1982, the New York Times referred to him in an article on June 9th of that year as director of the Palestinian news press agency.
Today, Rashid Khalidi is the head of the Middle East program at Columbia University. Not surprisingly, he helped coordinate Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's speech at the school, who said Israel should be wiped off the map. The Palestinian activist is an outspoken critic of the United States who mourns the establishment of Israel as a, quote, catastrophe.
He has justified terrorism by Palestinians against Israeli soldiers in the West Bank on the grounds that what he called resistance to occupation is legitimate in international law, unquote. In other words, terrorism okay if it's against soldiers.
Daniel Pipe says a financial web connects Senator Obama to the former PLO agent.
It's also clear from the record that they had a financial connection and that Obama sat on the board of a foundation, the Wood Fund, that gave money in 2 successive years, 2001, 2002, to an organization, the Arab American Action Network, that Rashid Khalidi co-founded and his wife directed. And the other direction, Khalidi held a fundraiser, a political fundraiser for Barack Obama in 2000. So they were helping each other financially.
The foundation that Pipes referred to is the Chicago-based Woods Fund that both Obama and the unrepentant terrorist William Ayers co-chaired. Incidentally, Khalidi thanks Ayers in his book, Resurrecting Empire, saying that Bill was particularly generous in letting me use his family's dining room table to do some of the writing for the project. Ayers and Obama reportedly approved $70,000 to Khalidi's Arab organization. In 2003, Barack Obama held a lavish farewell dinner for Khalidi before he left for Columbia University. The Los Angeles Times reported on the event in April of this year. The headline, "Allies of Palestinians see a friend in Obama." Here's what the paper said, quote, "A special tribute came from Khalidi's friend and frequent dinner companion, the young state senator Barack Obama." Obama's relationships with these types of people has even brought in support from terrorist organizations like Hamas. Hamas is an outspoken enemy of Israel's and has been very vocal about seeing Israel come to an end. In an interview earlier this year, Ahmed Youssef, chief political advisor to the prime minister of Hamas, said, quote, "We like Mr. Obama, and we hope that he'll win the election. Why? He has a vision to change America. But if Obama has a vision to change America the way Hamas thinks is good, we all have something to worry about." Democratic presidential nominee Barack Obama says his experience as a Chicago community organizer shaped his political views and helped prepare him for the highest office in the land. But as much as he wants to inflate the importance of his neighborhood experience, he barely mentioned one of the groups that he worked most closely with during that time, the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, otherwise known as ACORN. ACORN is a grassroots organization considered by some to be the largest radical group in America. Under the guise of helping low-income families and neighborhoods, ACORN uses shady tactics and intimidation to get what they want. Right now, this ultra-liberal political machine is under investigation on charges of voter fraud. This shady organization has been involved in voter fraud schemes all over the country for years.
Last year, the prosecutors in Seattle, Washington said that ACORN was at the center of the biggest voter registration fraud in the state's history. People had gone to the county library, they had taken phone books, and they had filled out voter registration cards. Of 1,800 cards they submitted, only six were valid.
But ACORN's dirty dealings go beyond just voter fraud. Back in the 1990s, they used strong-arm tactics to force banks to give high-risk loans to low-income borrowers with bad credit.
ACORN uses militant tactics. They call it direct action. Sometimes ACORN will actually send people to a bank official's home. They'll scare him, they'll scare his kids. Again, all in an effort to get the banks to make these bad loans. Obama's connections to this radical group began years ago when he first became a community organizer and caught the eye of ACORN head Madeline Talbot, who asked him to train her personal staff. So all the up-and-coming leaders that Madeline Talbot was using as soldiers in her campaign against these banks, they were trained by Barack Obama. And on top of that, Barack Obama was channeling money toward Madeline Talbot and toward ACORN through his position at the Woods Fund and also in his position as chair of the board of directors at the Chicago Annenberg Challenge. And Obama's support of ACORN went even further. In some of their early election law cases, ACORN's attorney was, well, you guessed it, Barack Obama.
He was their lawyer in a famous case in Illinois which upheld the constitutionality of the federal motor voter law, which prevented states from pruning their voter registration rolls to get rid of dead people, people who were not eligible, people who'd moved out of state.
If he truly thinks that ACORN is a reputable organization, why has Barack Obama glossed over the work that he did for them? Is he trying to distance himself from the radical group's methods of persuasion? Well, Obama may not have physically participated in their obvious scare tactics, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't involved. Barack Obama helped to plan an operation where protesters would come and break into a meeting and surprise some businessmen who were sitting around a table and sort of surround them and just stand there silently. Then they all filed out. Well, they didn't do anything physical, but clearly they were intimidating this board of directors. The Illinois senator's connections to this radical group are still going strong. The Obama campaign recently paid more than $800,000 to the Citizen Services, Inc. Now, that's a subsidiary of Acorn for, quote, get out the vote projects. Now, up until then, Acorn has managed to fly below the radar, but their dangerous practices are coming back to haunt them and the rest of the country. The economic crisis facing the nation is due in large part to this disastrous decision by financial institutions Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy up risky loans from small banks. But it's groups like Acorn that force those banks to give out those loans in the first place.
Up to now, we've been looking at this whole process from the top down. We've been seeing the Wall Street connection, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac connection. But if you look from the ground up, that's where Acorn has been the driving force. And Barack Obama has been with them every step of the way.
Acorn, heirs, Jeremiah Wright. Obama's list of friends reads like a history of radicalism.